Back, we had another full card breakdown, this time for UFC 302. Before we jump into this, remember all my links are going to be in the description of this video, but also, this is a pay-per-view, 302. We're going to be over on Couch Warriors channel at some point this week to do our panel breakdown. So you're going to see me, you're going to see the Couch Warrior, and you're going to see a couple of guests as selected by the Couch Warrior. We'll be back on my channel for UFC 303, but for the even numbers, we're on Couch Warriors channel. So check that out later this week. Likely Thursday night, fairly late, but make sure you're there, make sure you're in the chat and having a good time. Let's get into the first flyweights. We have Andre Lima, who was supposed to be on this card the whole time, but he's had multiple opponents fall out, and now he's taking on the short notice Mitch Raposo, who you may be familiar with, was on the Ultimate Fighter, Dana White's Contender Series, etc. Here he is, he steps in with only one loss in the career, making him 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He's taking on the undefeated Andre Lima, who is 5-0. Last win coming off disqualification, as you probably remember him getting bit. So there is that. But we are here at flyweight. The matchup is a bit thrown together. It's a late notice fight. I believe this was announced at the end of last week or middle of last week. So take that for what you will, how you think that's going to play things out. But for Andre Lima, the guy's a good striker. He's got plenty of power, and he works the body very well. He has an excellent cross. In fact, that is his best punch by a lot. But he can put his punches together in combination. He also has a really good step-in elbow. On the feet, I do think he's going to be the cleaner, more technical striker, and I don't think that's too crazy to say. In the grappling department, Lima, pretty good grappler as well, right? He's got decent takedown defense. Not amazing, but, you know, good enough. He's going to make people work for takedowns and not just give them up at the first sign of adversity. Stays safe on the mat if he is taken down, and he will try to sweep by attacking submissions. And if he doesn't get the submission, which he usually is not going to against higher-level grapplers, but he's going to be able to get that sweep based off of them having to defend the submission enough that he can get the sweep, get on top, or at least create a scramble, in which he's pretty good at that as well. Good at getting the scramble going, getting back to his feet, taking a better position, whatever he needs to do. On the other side, we have Mitch Raposo, who's taken advantage of this opportunity where he may have thought, you know, lost on the Ultimate Fighter, lost in the Contender Series, my shot at the UFC's over. Not so fast, man. Mitch, you are in. Mitch steps in short notice. And I do actually think that the short notice nature of this fight is going to help Raposo here. I do think Mitch Raposo has the advantage of just simply, you know, being a local guy to the area, stepping in on short notice, coming in with a game plan that you know, he knows what Andre Lima brings to the table. And for Raposo, sure, you might be able to look at his stuff on the Contender Series, the Ultimate Fighter, but he looks like he's really been leveling up in that time in between those. So maybe he can come with a new bag of tricks that maybe Lima isn't expecting, and on short notice that can help him out. He does have pretty good striking. Not as good as Lima's. Lima's the better striker here, but he has pretty good striking, and he can put together combinations, maybe not quite as good as Lima, but they're there, and he's got very quick hands as well. Good calf kick. I do really like that from him, but the problem I don't like for Raposo is that he's willing to back up when he's on the feet. Now, sure, he's still throwing punches back. He's still throwing his kicks, but he's backing up, and he can end up with his back against the cage. I don't like that too much. What I do like, what I really do like, is takedowns, his grappling. Good grappling. The takedown timing is key. He's able to shoot takedowns under his opponent's strikes or at the end of his own strikes. And I think that is going to be the biggest difference maker in this matchup. I think we're going to get ultimately a very close fight where Lima is going to be landing probably the cleaner strikes, but he's still going to be getting tagged on the feet. But a guy like Raposo is going to be able to get the takedowns at times when he needs them and maybe even get a win on the scorecards. And that's what I think is going to happen. Raposo stepping in on short notice, getting the upset victory. I'm going to take Mitch Raposo to get this win, but let me know what you have. We've got a wide-open women's bantamweight division, and a lot of the contenders are shooting for the top, but these two kind of outside of that top realm, but I don't think it's going to take much to get there for either of these contenders if they can get a win. We have Ailin Perez taking on Joselyne Edwards. Edwards, who is kind of just sneakily won some fights that maybe you thought it was a little close, maybe you didn't think she should get it, but on the scorecard, she got the decision and gets the win. So she's coming into this 3-2, although some of those fights were a little bit closer than you'd like to see if you're on the Edwards side. For Perez, she's 4-1 in her last 5 fights, and you think, like, man, I didn't think Ailin Perez was that good. Her only loss in the UFC is that short notice first fight in the UFC where she came in to fight Stephanie Egger as a replacement fighter. So realistically, both of these two have a chance to kind of like start working their way up that ladder at the women's bantamweight division, which is kind of just wide open, like I mentioned. So here we take a look at these two. Ailin Perez, she's going to be much shorter here. She's 5'5" with a 66-inch reach. That's going to be a problem for her because she's going against Joselyne Edwards. 5'8", 70-inch reach. Now 5'5" is quite a bit short for the bantamweight division. However, she's got that stocky, kind of strong, like lower build, you know, where her legs are kind of bigger. She's got strong glutes, and she can get in there for takedowns, which is what she's going to need here. Let's start on the Perez side. We're going to start with her striking, though, because it's going to start on the feet. The girl's got decent striking. right? I don't think it's super super clean, but she will put out volume. She does have good knees, and she'll use those in her volume, where she's like, throwing her punches up top. She'll throw a knee in there, like kind of doesn't really feel like a combo, but it's kind of all together. So kind of a combo, if you know what I mean. If you get what I'm saying, let me know, because I feel dumb saying that. But she has a lot of forward pressure, and that's the thing that's going to help her out here. She's got a lot of forward pressure, very aggressive, and she will throw volume. She's not afraid to get hit while coming in just to land some of that volume in order to get up to the clinch and start looking for that body lock takedown, because she is a decent grappler. I wouldn't say she's super skilled, but what she lacks in maybe the skill, she makes up for in aggressiveness, kind of grittiness, and pace. Her pace is going to be her biggest weapon here. And I think that's something that she's going to really need to implement early on in this fight. She's going to go for that body lock, and she has decent top pressure. Now, she'll let her opponents up, but it's not because she's lacking in the top pressure department. What happens is she's not afraid to posture up and throw volume, which is good. You want that. She's going to posture up, especially after she advances position to like a mount or something like that, which she will work to do. But once she postures up and she starts landing these big shots, you can't. When you posture up, you are giving your opponent space, and space is an opportunity to get back to your feet. Now, sure, you're going to be able to land bigger, heavier shots, and that's a thing that's going to happen, but you're also giving them more space. So she is going to let people up at times, but what do they have to eat in order to get back up? It's going to be some heavy ground and pound, and she's going to try to push you right back on your butt. So for Perez, the pace is what she's going to need for this fight, right? Joselyne Edwards, the opposite is true. She needs to keep this fight at range, slow the fight down, and use that length that she has, because she is the better striker. She's a good striker, really. She's got good kicks at range as well, and her front kick is probably going to be the tool she needs here. She needs to not get that kick caught, but if she can stick that front kick and keep Perez off at range in the distance, and she's able to use that to her advantage to kind of get those hands to kind of come down a little bit. Oh man, getting kicked in the stomach. I can't come forward. That's what Perez is going to be thinking, and then open up the hands after those front kicks. That's what Edwards needs to do here to get the win on the scorecards. Even if she does get taken down early, gets taken down a few times, enough of those front kicks to the body is going to really slow down the momentum and the pressure and the pace of Perez. So that's the thing she's going to need to do for Edwards. Now, in the defense on her grappling, that's what she's going to focus on here, because she's not going to grapple offensively against Perez. She's got decent takedown defense. And I know that you're thinking, what? 138 MMA? She's been held on the ground for like most of her fights. I understand that. Her takedown defense in itself is improving. She's getting better. It's not good, but it's okay. But she gets held down once she is taken down, and that's the problem. And that's why ultimately I think Ailin Perez is going to get this one done. I think she's going to be able to get the fight to the mat, get the takedowns when she needs them, and probably be able to hold Joselyne Edwards down enough. And the thing that she's going to do that others have failed to do is she's going to be willing to posture up and throw volume while she's got Edwards down, even at the expense of her getting back to her feet. So I'm taking Ailin Perez to get this win, probably via decision. But I could see the judges kind of messing this one up. They've done it in Joselyne Edwards fights before. So let me know what you think. I'd love to hear from you guys. I want to get a read on here, folks. We're at welterweight. We have Gall returning after about 2 years away from the octagon. So what does that mean? It means we're going off of a lot of old footage to really decide where we think Gall is in his career and what his skill set is. So bear with me on anything I say. Take it with a pinch of salt. But we're going to break this down to the best of our abilities, because Gall is stepping in here to take on Bassil Hafez. And Hafez, coming off of his short notice debut in the UFC, now he's coming in here fighting Gall, who's taken 2 years away, like I said. So this fight is really, really hard to get a good gauge on. It's definitely going to be one of those fights where you just crack open an ice cold root beer, kick your feet up on the coffee table and watch. Maybe take some notes while you're doing it and try to figure out where you can put these guys for the foreseeable future, right? Where do you see them in the rankings or in the divisions, and kind of figure out what their skill set is going forward. But we're going to go off of what we've got, right? For Hafez, he's 3-2 in his last 5 fights, 2-3 on the Gall side. For Hafez, we're going to start over there. He's on this side of the board. That's usually where we start. For Bassil Hafez, he's a good striker. He's got good power, and it's knockdown power. It's not that one-shot, put your lights out power necessarily. Yes, he could probably knock you out if he hits right, but it's more of the knockdown power, and he's got a very good 1-2. Just sticks that 1-2 right down there. The thing that sucks for Hafez is he doesn't seem to put that third punch behind it when he needs it. He is just 1 or 2 shots at a time most of the time. Occasionally you'll see it, but usually it's just that 1 or 2. Now, I'm not saying that's bad, because he does have that knockdown power, and he does land it pretty clean, but sometimes you just want him to put that hook behind it, or you want him to, maybe throw a kick at the end of the combo and just put something else there, but it's just that 1-2. At least from what we've seen so far, I think he can level this up as he goes, and I think he can start getting way better in the striking department. But he's still pretty young in his career, right? He's got, 13 fights, something like that? So for Hafez, Still coming along. He's not a finished product yet. He's still in his 20s, I believe. So not a big red flag there. In fact, he might even fix it before this fight. Decent leg kick, something that I think is going to help him out quite a bit in this fight. I do think he's going to be able to use that leg kick to slow down the movement of Gall. And then when we get to the grappling, the guy has pretty good volume in his takedowns. We saw that against JDM. He's willing to go for the takedowns even when he's tired, keep fighting through it. Good scrambles, and he is a very good back taker. And when he takes your back, he's going to sit there for quite some time. He's got good control from the back. On the other side, we have Mickey Gall. They're very similar in the grappling department, but not so much in the striking. Mickey Gall's striking is pretty much set up by his takedown threat, and he has some decent power as well. I do think Mickey Gall has more of a chance to knock out Hafez than Hafez has of knocking out Gall, because we've seen Gall be durable as heck. Now, a TKO, different story. Just that volume, that accumulation style TKO, that's a different story. But just one-shot knockout power, Gall can crack. The guy he throws that big, heavy overhand when he's going for a takedown sometimes. And if he hits you just right on the button, you're going down. So Mickey Gall, decent with the power, but the grappling is where he gets it done, right? He's got good takedowns. When he gets your back, that rear naked choke is just lights out for him. He doesn't have a ton of tools, but the tools he does have are pretty sharp. Good ground and pound, take your back. Once he's got your back, he's looking for the rear naked choke, and he's going to try to get it pretty much exclusively. He's not switching off to go for an armbar. He's not switching off to, try to get over to mount instead. He's sticking with the back, and he's going for that rear naked choke. Ultimately, in this one, though, I don't like the layoff for Mickey Gall, and I think that pushes me over the edge to take Hafez. I'll take Bassil Hafez with a little bit of confidence, but not very much at all. So let me know what you think. I'd love to hear from you. Waits next. Niko Price takes on Alex Morono. Here we are in this 170-pound matchup. Alex Morono coming back pretty early after his last matchup. He is 3-2 in his last 5 fights, coming off that win over Court McGee in a close decision. Niko Price hasn't looked the best as of late. He's 1 win, 3 losses, and a no contest in his last 5 fights. Yeah, that's it's not looking the best. And he's coming off that loss to Robbie Lawler, which also doesn't look the best. Robbie Lawler is like 41 years old, and it was a retirement fight, so not something you like to see. So Niko Price hasn't been in his best form, but he's shown good stuff in the past. So let's kind of break this down. Let's get into a little bit. Alex Morono, good striker, good volume, puts together good combinations. The guy's very technical. He's got good leg kicks as well, and he can circle off, use his strikes and get around, just kind of using that movement. I don't have a lot of room to move in here, so just bear with me. But does all that really well, right? He's a good grappler as well. He's got good jiu-jitsu. He's got good scrambles. He jumps on submissions and transitions extremely well. His takedown defense isn't that good, though, and he can be willing to work from his back, trying to get submissions, trying to work off his back, do some stuff from there. That's not the best idea in MMA. Now, if he locks up a submission, sure, but it's not the best idea in MMA, so I put it as a negative. Either way, Morono, lots of skills, good stuff. Price. Yeah, turns fights into a brawl, which at one point was great for him. Niko Price turns fights into a brawl and makes them ugly, and then that helps him out a lot because he's got good volume and good power. The problem is his striking defense isn't very good. He gets backed up in these brawls, and his durability has really faded on him as of late. The Robbie Lawler fight just goes to show you. I mean, that wasn't prime Robbie Lawler. You understand? So that we didn't like to see that. It's a bad look for Niko Price. He got dropped in like 30 seconds. So yeah, there's that. He does have good jiu-jitsu though. He's active from his back. Ultimately, I think this is going to be a striking matchup for as long as it lasts. And what I think happens is Alex Morono gets this one done. I think Alex Morono is going to be able to land a shot, rattle Niko Price, and either follow it up and get the knockout or follow him to the ground and get a club and sub. So I'm taking Alex Morono to get this one done. He's probably going to finish him first, maybe second round. Alex Morono gets the win. Let me know what you got. Phil Rowe takes on Jake Matthews in the welterweight division. Matthews, 19-7, 2-3 in the last 5. That's not what you like to see, but he's been around the UFC for ages. The guy's been there, done that. He just seems to be a bit inconsistent throughout his career. So you never know which Jake Matthews you're going to get. He's taking on Phil Rowe, who's 3-2 in his last 5. It's good, but a lot of those victories have come after him having to battle back through adversity after kind of giving up the first, maybe the second round, come back, snatch a victory from, the jaws of defeat. So it's kind of a tough one to call here, guys, but there is a big height and reach advantage on the Phil Rowe side. He is 6'3" with an 80.5-inch reach. He's going against the 5'11", 72-inch reach of Jake Matthews. So for Phil Rowe, that reach advantage is going to be crucial for him in this one. For Jake Matthews, he's going to need to close the distance somehow, get inside of that range, and be able to work his game. Let's break this down. Jake Matthews, good striking, good combinations that he can counter-strike with the best of them. Now, it's going to be hard to counter-strike against a guy with this much range because even if he's hitting you from out here, it's hard to counter something when you can't reach him. So he's going to have to use his movement, which he's got good, to be able to, get inside, counter the second shot, and then come back, put in a combination of his own, which I do believe he's capable of doing on his best day. What day are we going to get, right? So for Jake Matthews, good striking, good combos, counters, movement, all that. I like all that, but it's just what Jake Matthews is going to show up. The grappling. He gets the fight to the mat. He's got good ground and pound, and he can take the back very well and start fishing for that rear naked choke. I do think on the mat, Jake Matthews is going to have more minutes that he's winning. He's going to be the one controlling where the positions are, things like that. So I do think Jake Matthews is going to be the better grappler in this matchup. But that's not to say Rowe's bad on the ground, right? He's got good jiu-jitsu. He's active from his back, but sometimes he's willing to work from there. And I think we could see something like that if Matthews is able to get on top. It's Rowe trying to work off his back and losing minutes. However, on the feet, dude's got good volume, good power. He has long, rangy, powerful straights, and that's what he's going to need to use here to keep that range, because he does use his range pretty well. Ultimately, I think the striking skill for skill is pretty even, just different. It's the grappling that I think it comes down to, and that's why I have to side with Jake Matthews. But guys, pass on this one. Crack open another root beer and enjoy it, because I don't think that this is a good one to be betting on. Give me Jake Matthews, though, just by the slightest of margins. Let me know what you have, and I'll see you next. If you haven't done so already, please do me a favor. Take the time to like this video. I do appreciate it a lot. If maybe I've provided you some value, some entertainment, something like that, make it worth my time. Just hit like. Doesn't cost you anything, and I do appreciate it. Let's break this down. Grant Dawson takes on Joe Solecki in the lightweight division. Solecki coming in 3-2 in his last 5. A similar record on the other side, 3-1 and a draw for Dawson in his last 5 fights. Both of these guys are similar, that they want to get the grappling going, but their styles of grappling are a bit different. For Joe Solecki, dude's a solid grappler with decent takedowns, but his top pressure is what he needs to get done here. He wants to get on top, just grind opponents out, stay safe, and just grind. That's what he needs to do. Yes, he can take the back, and he's got a good rear naked choke, but he likes to just do things slow, work through his paces, do what he's got to do to just stay as safe as he can on top and win minutes. That is his style. Decent striking. Does throw out a single shots, and that's about it. But the wrestling threat does open up the hands, so he does have that going for him. On the other side, we do have Grant Dawson. Now, Grant Dawson, very solid wrestler. We saw that when he out-wrestled the Olympic wrestler in Mark Madsen, right? So for Grant Dawson, obviously he has the credentials there, the skills there. He chain wrestles well, good takedown volume. He can scramble very well, but he very much wants to get to the back and control guys from there. That's when he's going to start looking for rear naked chokes, of course, but the control is key, and he'll work for the ground and pound from there as well. His back takes are probably better than Joe Solecki's back takes. For Joe Solecki, his top pressure from, say, like the half guard is probably better than the pressure from the half guard from Dawson. Not that either guy can't do the other's skill. It's just, where do I see the advantages for each guy? I think once Dawson gets on your back, you're stuck there. And I think with Solecki in that half guard kind of press there, that's where he's going to have more success. Now, when it comes to the striking department, I think Dawson's just a little bit better, although we do have some serious concerns about his durability now. I understand anybody can get caught, but getting knocked out like that by Bobby Green, somebody that's not known to be knocking guys out, that's not something you like to see. However, he got caught, stepped right into that punch. It was just a well-timed punch before the fight really got going. Sometimes it takes a few, lighter shots or whatever to kind of get the chin warmed up. I know that doesn't make any sense, but it's a thing. The later the fight goes, the less likely you are just to get knocked dead in one shot, at least from my experience. So anyway, for Grant Dawson, the wrestling threat sets up the hands, and he does have a decent leg kick, which I would say gives him a little bit of an advantage there. Ultimately, I've got to side with Dawson. I think he's the better grappler positionally for MMA, and I think on the feet he's going to be slightly better there as well. I do think he gets this one done. Could he get cracked? Sure, but I think he's going to be able to take it. So Grant Dawson's my pick. Let me know what you have. We've got Roman Kopylov taking on Cesar Almeida in the middleweight division. And I've got to say, this is probably one of the most difficult matchups to predict on this entire card. So bear with me on this one. Now, one of the reasons that's so difficult to predict is we don't know really what we're getting out of Almeida as far as his MMA career goes, right? He's a former kickboxer, did pretty good over there, but he's 5-0 in MMA entirely. 5-0, just that's 5 fights in MMA, not just in the UFC. So that's really hard to know how he's going to do against the higher level guys. Now, Roman Kopylov, maybe he's not a top tier guy in the UFC. We saw that he, took a big step up to fight Anthony Hernandez. Hernandez would run through Almeida kind of like he did to Kopylov, struggle at first with the striking, but just put that pace and just out grapple him. So I don't think that's really something we can use to give us a better gauge on this. Anthony Hernandez probably beats both of these guys. I don't feel silly saying that. I think it's pretty clear. But 4-1, that one loss being to Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, and Kopylov did okay early on in that fight. And I do think that, the experience at the UFC level or in just in MMA in general is definitely something that's going to help Kopylov in this matchup. But this is ultimately a striking matchup between two two kickboxers essentially in an MMA cage. So it's really tricky. So let's break it down here from what we do know about Cesar Almeida. He's a solid striker, obviously. He's got plenty of power, clean combinations, and he works the body very well. That is what we know so far. His takedown defense is decent, and he's shown the ability to get back to his feet if he is taken down. For Kopylov, yeah, he's got decent takedown defense as well. I don't think these guys are looking to grapple. Maybe they do. It's going to be hard to tell. It's going to be hard to predict who's going to be the grappler if that is the case. But I do think that, we just got to go off of what we know. Now, I understand I have a lot more written down for Kopylov. It's because he's had 3 times the fights of Almeida, so you have more to go off of, okay? So don't just see the notes and just think, oh, he's completely one-sided on one of the guys. That's not how that works. For Kopylov, though, dude's a solid striker. He's got tight defense on the feet. And I do think that's going to be something he's going to need in this matchup because he's going to have power and combinations coming back at him. He's got a lot of clean straights, particularly his jab. So his jab is going to be probably one of his better weapons in this matchup, trying to keep that range. And he can put combinations and single punches together, or single strikes, I guess, whether it be a kick or a punch. And you can put that together. So he'll come with a combination, maybe he'll come with a single strike. And he keeps you guessing as to what's coming. His kicks to all levels is going to be something he's going to need to use here, and he feints quite a bit to set up his strikes. Ultimately, this is going to come down to, it's another pass. Like, don't be putting money on this fight unless you're willing to gamble, and that's what you'd be doing here. You're gambling because we don't know enough about Almeida to really know what we're getting with him, right? So for me, ultimately, I'm going to side with the experience at the UFC level or in MMA in general, and I'm going to take Roman Kopylov, but it's a fight that I need to watch and really just dig in on the notes and kind of see how these guys line up. I'm taking Kopylov with just absolutely zero confidence. It's as close to zero as I can get. It's a very hard one. I've switched my pick a couple of times on this, so bear with me on it. But let me know what you think. Welterweight, we have Randy Brown taking on Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. For Zaleski, we're going to call him Zaleski here. He's 3-1-1 in his last 5. That one extra there being a draw. Not a no contest, it's a draw. On the other side, Randy Brown 4-1 in his last 5. Now, the intangibles are on the side of Randy Brown. The guy's 33 years old as opposed to 37 for Zaleski. Randy Brown is 6'3" with a 78-inch reach as opposed to 5'11", 73-inch reach for Zaleski. Now, in this matchup here, Zaleski has the experience, I would say. I don't think that's crazy to argue. He's had more fights at the UFC level as well as just in his career. The guy's been around the game a while. So experience, I guess, here, physical over here, right? For Zaleski, we'll look at him. He's a solid striker with good volume and power. His kicks are probably his best weapon, and he throws some kicks that are very difficult to predict. Spin and heel kicks, kicking low, kicking high, step through with something. Like, he's got just a wild kicking arsenal, and his wild attacks make him very hard to predict. He throws some crazy punches in there, all that good stuff. Good knees up the middle. He's just a hard striker to predict, and he hits very hard. So he's difficult to really get your flow going against because of his unconventional style in his striking. In the grappling department, he's not at a loss there either. He's got very good jiu-jitsu. He's very quick to attack leg locks from the bottom, and he uses these well as either a submission attempt, an actual submission attempt, or a sweep. He doesn't sit there and sell out for the leg lock if he doesn't get it right away. Instead, he's going to use that to sweep, take top position, and do what he needs to do from there. From the grappling perspective from the feet, he's very good at catching kicks. And I think in this matchup, he's going to really need to use that because Randy Brown is a bit of a kicker. So for Zaleski, if he wants to get this fight to the mat, catching kicks might be his best bet for that. And I do think that he can do that in this matchup. He's got decent takedown defense as well. So if he wants to keep the fight on the feet, he should be able to do so. Now for Randy Brown, the dude's going to be able to use his range well. He's got very good range management, and he's a good striker in general. He's got excellent kicks. His kicks, especially his front kick, I think are probably some of his better weapons that kind of just go underutilized. The one thing I could see being a problem for Randy Brown is the lean back that he'll do because he is tall. That's great when you're blocking or when you're trying to get out of the way of a single shot, like a big hook or a big overhand or something like that, and you just go out of the way like that. That's great. But what happens when you get out of the way of the first shot and it goes by just like that, and the second shot is coming behind it? You either have to be able to lean back further or you're toast. And you can't just keep leaning back because the limbo doesn't work that way, right? And that's what you're essentially doing. So if he does get in the habit of doing those lean backs, Zaleski is the type of guy that's smart enough to realize that and will put something behind what he's throwing. And I could see him throwing like a big overhand and then coming with the spin and wheel kick. That was wild to just try to demonstrate right there while still maintaining my microphone and all that stuff. But you get what I'm saying. And Zaleski's the type of guy that could do that and put out a guy like Randy Brown. However, Brown, if he plays it smart, can keep range and win a really boring decision here. So it's going to be a hard one to predict. In the jiu-jitsu, Brown's good at just wrapping up limbs. He's got those choking arms, being, long, slender arms. I think he has a potential there. But realistically, I have to side with Zaleski. The only thing that gives me pause is all of this right here. You know, the age and the big height and reach disadvantage. Otherwise, Zaleski should get this one done, and I'm taking him here. I think he's definitely got this. That draw that he has probably could have been a win. A lot of referees would have stopped that fight, especially if it wasn't Rinat Fakhretdinov, because, you know, he's a big prospect for the UFC. Was winning the whole, you know, winning the first 2 rounds, and Zaleski just came back in the third, started putting it on him, and darn near got the finish. Many refs would have called that fight there. So Zaleski made a good account of himself in that last matchup, and I think he can do that here and probably even get the win. So I'm taking Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. Let me know what you have. Next, Jailton Almeida takes on Alexandr Romanov. We've got Alexandr Romanov coming in 3-2 in his last 5 fights, 4-1 for Almeida. Almeida looking to bounce back off of that loss to Curtis Blaydes, where dude looked fantastic in the first round and then just kind of, that was it, fell apart when he met adversity from Blaydes. Now, I understand Blaydes was hitting him with some shots, pretty heavy ones, but at the same time, the dude just fell apart. So that was a bit of a red flag. Makes you worry about his resilience. But we're going to go into the rest of this, right? Because it's not like Alexandr Romanov has shown you a ton of resilience in his fights, right? Dude's a solid wrestler, Romanov is. He's got very good wrestling, good slams, and just those big, powerful, just mauling style of grappling that he likes to use. He's very heavy on top, and he's got good ground and pound. But his cardio is just toast after, you know, the first round. He starts very fast, but if you can't continue with it, if you don't get him out of there in the first, you're kind of just a punching bag after that. So that's a problem for him. His striking is sloppy, but it is powerful. He is big. The dude's a brute, right? So for Romanov, it's kind of first round or bust. But if he gets a hold of Almeida in the first round, he probably breaks him. However, Almeida, dude's a strong grappler as well. He's got solid takedowns, very good control. His ground and pound is excellent. He's got opportunistic subs that he goes to. So if you give him the opening, he's going to take it. His striking defense is really good. He doesn't really throw a lot on the feet. He does seem to have the ability to strike okay, but he just doesn't seem to do it. Maybe it's something that we just realized is that maybe his chin's not the best. That could be something that we know, because we've seen people eat shots like that before and not just kind of fall apart. So maybe he just got hit just right, but also it could be that maybe his durability is not there, and that could be a problem for him. But his striking defense has been pretty good, and a lot of it's because of the grappling threat. Dude's got a high motor and good cardio. We've seen him go 5 rounds before and grapple throughout those 5 rounds, which is exhausting. So for me, ultimately, this fight is a tricky one to call based on kind of not knowing how it's going to start out. But I think once this fight gets going, within the first minute, we're going to have a really good idea of how this is going to play out, because I don't think we're going to see a comeback win from Romanov. So I think it's kind of who's getting that advantage early on. And if it's Romanov, he might get the win early. If it's Almeida early, that's it. I think that's over. So because of that, I got to side with Almeida, because I think he can get the upper hand early, and I think if he does, it's over. But if Almeida, you know, runs into kind of that mauler in Romanov and is able to somehow survive, I still think Almeida can win. I just think that there's a real good likelihood that Romanov destroys him in the first round. So let me know what you guys think. It's a tricky one here, but I'll see you guys in the next middleweight. Kevin Holland is here. He's taking on Michal Oleksiejczuk. Now, for Kevin Holland, he's been down at welterweight. He's taking this one kind of a shorter notice fight, and I think that's why he's up at middleweight. I think this is a one-off thing, but we need some more fights on this card, right? A lot of these fights have fallen out. We've got some fights put in. In-step Kevin Holland, because that's what he does. He's 2-3 in his last 5 fights. He's taking on the guy, Michal Oleksiejczuk, who is 3-2 in his last 5. Height and reach advantage goes to the guy who was at welterweight. That is Kevin Holland. He's 6'3 with an 81-inch reach. He now is going to have a big reach and height advantage over Michal Oleksiejczuk, who is 6 foot with a 74-inch reach. Now, for Oleksiejczuk, which is a hard name to say, so bear with me if I'm screwing that up, dude's a solid striker with good forward pressure. He's got good power, and he's got pretty good movement on his feet. He kind of plods at times, but he moves well while plodding, if that makes sense. He's got decent wrestling, but he's reluctant to use it. And it's only good offensively. Defensively, it's not that good at all. But he can mix in takedowns. Like I said, reluctantly, his takedown defense just isn't there. Do I think he's going to wrestle Kevin Holland? Only if he has to, and then also has the opportunity to at the point of needing to. So maybe. It's a tough one to say. For Kevin Holland, I do think he's a better striker. He's got solid striking, plenty of power, good range. Obviously, he's going to be able to use that range here. He's got speed, accuracy, and decent striking defense. And I think a lot of that's from the range. You know, he'll stay outside of his opponent's reach just a little bit. Good jiu-jitsu. Yes, he's been taken down quite a bit, but he's got good sweeps from the bottom, just not against guys that are a lot bigger than him, typically at middleweight. So that could be a problem. Good scrambles, very good front chokes, because he's got them choking arms. When you got arms that are 81 inches long, you're going to have choking arms, right? So for me, this fight really just comes down to, Can Oleksiejczuk get inside, land a big shot, knock out Kevin Holland? I don't think so. The dude's durable as heck. Can he get the takedown and just ride out 2 of the 3 rounds? It's possible, but I don't think he's going to be willing to go to that early in the fight. I think that this one has to be Kevin Holland, but you can't really trust the guy to go out there and get a win at middleweight when we've seen him have much better success at welterweight. Do I think Kevin Holland wins? Absolutely. Do I feel really good about picking him as a favorite? No, he's more of the guy you pick as an underdog. I'm going to take Kevin Holland here, but let me know what you guys think. It's a tricky one. I think this is a good matchup for him. But let me know. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for checking it out. Folks, main and co-main event. They should be popping up on screen any moment now if they haven't already. I've already broke those down in depth. Go ahead and click on those videos. There's a playlist. It's going to be part of this playlist if you've already clicked on this one, so it's right there for you. But I broke down the Strickland-Costa matchup as well as the Makhachev-Poirier matchup in detail. Both videos are about 15 minutes or so, so you get the full rundown of everything. Don't forget, hop on over to Couch Warriors channel to watch the panel that we're going to have likely Thursday, probably around 9 or so p.m. Eastern time. But, all that good stuff. Check all those things out. Grab yourself a 130 MMA t-shirt. Links in the description. All of the other stuff there. Thanks to the channel members. Thanks to the patrons. I appreciate all of you guys. Like the video on your way out, and I'll see you guys in the other breakdown.